Let's discuss how Python Flask web applications can support logins. So taking the original app.py from before and adding only the stuff at the bottom shown here, I've put a dictionary of users and their passwords. So Josh user has 123456, Alice user has ABC123. Obviously, normally this would come from a database and these passwords would be hashed to protect them in case this code ever got leaked or whatever. But for the moment, it'll just be a dictionary. So we added a login route, which simply returns a login HTML page with a form. I'll show you in a second. And then when the form is submitted through post, it goes to the login submit. We get the user from the form and the password from the form. If user from the form is in users, which means is it a key? And furthermore, when we go look up the password for that key, does it match the password provided by the form? Then it's a successful login. If neither, or if one of those is not true, it simply says invalid username or password. It's important to say invalid username or password. It's not a good idea to say invalid username or separately invalid password, because if your logic has an if for user, it says if user exists, and then it further checks the password, and if the password's wrong, it says, well, the user exists, but the password's no good. That allows hackers to figure out all the users by trying different users. That would be known as user enumeration, enumerating all the users or listing all the users. And that's a security flaw. We don't want that to be allowed. So always return invalid username or password saying, I'm not going to tell you which one of those is wrong, so I don't give you any extra information. If the password is correct, though, we want to redirect them to the front page, but we have to keep track that they're actually logged in. And the way this is done is it sets a cookie in the browser, and a lot of sites use cookies. If we go to the browser and go to any random site like Wikipedia, and go to here, then there's probably various cookies like my last access, a GeoIP. That's interesting to figure out, should I get the English language or something else? So these cookies are sent by the Wikipedia server, and when the server sends to the browser, I want you to set this cookie, the browser saves that cookie, and it saves it for a certain amount of time, like a year. Then every time your browser goes back to that page, it gives back the cookie. So if you go to a different browser, you probably have to log in again. But as long as you're using the same browser and the cookie is not expired, then every time you go back to this page, the cookie will be used and it will know it's you again. So that's what we're going to do here. Currently, I have no cookies on this site. I mean, this site's, it's not even running right now, but I have no cookies. By the way, this little plugin here, I forgot what it was called. It's called Edit This Cookie. It's a Chrome plugin that you can get. So you can't trust cookies because people who know what they're doing can just change the cookies inside the browser. But we'll talk about that in a second. But what happens after login is known to be successful is we set a cookie in the browser so that when the user makes a post, it'll put their name in the post. It'll be like you're logged in. So we'll set a cookie called user. And when we run this and we try to log in, so currently I still have no cookies. When I log in, if I do it incorrectly, it should say bad. Don't save that. Still no cookies. If I log in correctly, it sets the cookie Josh for user. So it's like key value, user, and then the value is Josh. And the cookies go specific to the domain or the .com or whatever. So that cookie user Josh is only going to be utilized by the browser when it goes to this same website. Now what I want to do with that is modify the app so that if there is a cookie, it'll put it in the title, or it'll put it in the post. So we'll do it like that. So we'll get the user cookie. right, so I still have the cookie. So now if I make a post, it puts Josh in front. If I go back, I don't really have a logout feature. I have to log in again, I guess. And log in as Alice. Then I do a post. Then it looks like Alice wrote it. So this is effectively a login. Like I might have an advanced profile page and so forth. So just by sending this cookie, it knows who I am because I did a login. Problem now is if I know what I'm doing in my browser, I can just go and change this cookie to anyone I want. So I didn't know Josh's password, you might imagine, and I'm actually able to post as that person by just changing my cookie. So if you're going to do cookies for login, you can't very well just make a cookie that's an obvious value, because then anyone can just make up that value and bypass the security. So what we have to do is give a cookie that is a random value that's impossible to guess. So we'll have to import random, and we'll have to keep track of logged in users. Currently nobody's logged in, but it'll be a dictionary. And what we'll set when we make the cookie, we'll check your password as usual, but we won't give you your own username as a cookie. That's not a good idea. We'll call it session ID. It's a common term. And let's make a variable. Random integer from 0 to something large. And that will be in the cookie. So now we can make it much larger random. That would be better, but it's good enough for the moment. We're giving back a random number. So you're not going to be able to guess anyone else's random number and impersonate them. But of course, we have to keep track of this stuff because now we can't just look at the cookie and know it's Josh or Alice. We have to look at the random number and find out who is that. So we'll say logged in session ID. We'll add a new key is this user. That will be how we keep track of who's logged in. The key will be that number and the value will be the user. So then up here, we won't be able to get the user from the cookie. We'll be able to get the session ID from the cookie. And with that, if there is a session ID, if session ID in logged in, then we can get the user from that dictionary. Else we'll just say nobody or anonymous. All right, so you got to have a form of security here that doesn't trust what the user gives you. The user or the browser or whatever just can't trust what they're giving you. Even though you sent them this data, they could change it because it's their own computer. So you always have to check something. So to make it secure, you have to give them something that's impossible to guess, so they can't impersonate anybody else or change it to a proper value. All right, so now might as well just get rid of this cookie. If I refresh, I've got no cookies. If I log in correctly, oh, apparently I have an error. Let's figure out what that is. Expected bytes. Oh, I think because we gave a number, and we should be giving a string. So session ID should be a string. Let's make this a string. I bet it got confused by making the response value or the cookie value a number, perhaps, instead of a string. So let's try it again. Oh. Okay, now You see the cookie is some random number. If I make a post, it knows it's me. If I go try to change that number to something else, obviously it's not going to be a correct number, so I won't be able to make a post as somebody else because I can't guess the number. It'll just stay anonymous. Right, so that way you cannot log in as someone else just by guessing. Just to see that this is actually what's done in practice, if we go to a website, where can we go? Again, New York Times, as I keep doing, because I do have an account there, so there's going to be some sort of cookie responding to that account. It could be this one. I'm not sure which of these it is. They're all kind of similar, but these are realistic cookies. You can't guess them. They could be a hash or something. You don't know. Or probably not a hash because that could be guessable, but because you don't want just this to be like my name hashed, because I can just hash someone else's name. So it should be something that's not guessable. It should be random. All right, so that's how you support logins.